For those of you not aware, the Common Alerting Protocol, as I mentioned, was first ratified at the committee level in 2004, and then it went through another iteration of a CAP 1.1, and that became an OASIS standard. Because of its work, especially on an international basis with Weather Service and the International Meteorological, World Meteorological Organization, it needed a much broader adoption, and so it went through a process with the International Telecommunications Union to become the ITU's X.1303 approved standard in 2007. The OASIS committee has also created the EDXL distribution element, ratified in 2006, the resource messaging standard, ratified in 2008, along with the hospital availability. And then earlier this year, we had submitted to the EMTC the situation reporting specification. And one thing that's interesting about all of these EDXL specifications is the cooperative process that has gone on, especially working with Homeland Security Science and Technology Directorate, where they have organized practitioner working groups to gather requirements. And those requirements then brought together, reviewed with some other vendor consortium, and then submitted into the OASIS Emergency Management Committee to go through a much broader initial technology reviews and further standardization work there. And so those processes have gone on here. The situation reporting specification was submitted to the TC early this year, and it's in the middle of its standardization process there right now. Just this past month, the Common Alerting Protocol IPAWS profile was approved as a committee specification. We're glad to see that one finally make through its process. It included a 60-day public review, and we had a lot of comments on that, and those were reworked and then revised, version sent out, and now that's been approved. What's happening next? Well, one of the key things that's going on is further work on the CAP 1.2. The 1.2 was made some adjustments to be in compliance and support of the IPAWS profile, and so that is right now out for voting by the committee. We also will be doing some work on the reference implementation model value list, continuing work on the situation reporting specification, and also looking at the next rounds of requirements for the distribution element. And then also taking a look at the additional requirements that have come in for expansion of the Common Alerting Protocol to work on CAP 2.0. I mentioned to you that occurring, in fact, in the conference room just back beside us here will be a series of programs. We'll have both educational programs as well as the interoperability demo going on. This is a brief graphic. There's more detailed graphics and information that are available in the room there. And in fact, in each of your packages, there is a brief review of the interop demo there. And in that, you'll see that it really begins with what happens if you have a train wreck, and you'll see in the demos there the close proximity of that simulated train wreck occurring right outside here where the train tracks go by the stadium. And so imagine if there's a sports event going on, train wreck occurs, it's carrying chlorine gas, it spills, you have this chlorine cloud. What has to go on to coordinate emergency resources, send out notifications both through various devices you'll see demonstrated there, notifications going out over cell phones, over tone alert receivers, sirens, and even over the emergency alert system. And so this is an example that will be shown how the different standards actually come together in practical situations to show the ability to coordinate emergency responsiveness to get more accurate information out to first responders and coordinated resources in a much quicker time frame. And then on top of all this, we'll be demonstrating the ability for a National Weather Service tornado warning to be distributed, and in this particular area, demonstrating the use of the NEAM IEPD for that type of alert with the EDXL distribution element. And so this begins to show what Donna was alluding to is how, yes, in fact, these standards can, in fact, play together. So please come by in the next 2 days and take a look and actually kick the tires, talk to the people who are implementing these various standards, and find out about what they're doing and some of the ways they're doing those implementations. I want to especially thank the sponsors, Ad Hoc, Desktop Alert, Google, and my own company, Warning Systems, as well as the strong support we've had from the National Weather Service, Homeland Security, and FEMA on this, and we've had participation from 6 other member companies within OASIS, one of the largest interoperability demos that the OASIS organization has been able to put on in the emergency management sector. And so we are grateful for the support that has brought that together. One of the things that we are planning to do also with this interoperability demo is then take it actually out on the road and talk to a number of frontline practitioners. So this demonstration will be put on at the end of October at the IAEM show down in Orlando, Florida. And so the emergency management managers who are attending that one will have a chance to actually see this type of interoperability demo going on. Also, I mentioned the series of activities here, so interspersed with the interoperability demo, primarily on breaks and over the lunch hour, we'll be doing a series of presentations, really getting into the in-depth work, the roadmap, talking about the range of standards work going on there, the coordinating work on Wednesday afternoon with NEAM, and so there's a chance to actually talk with people who are more directly involved in that. On Thursday will be a much broader view of the in-depth work on the standards, talking about the Common Alerting Protocol, and then the family of EDXL specifications. And looking forward to the future, we mentioned the situation reporting work, and then a new activity that I believe right now is in the practitioner working group stage and targeted to be submitted in the tracking of emergency patients. So again, you begin to see a lot of cross-domain type activities going on there. And then on Thursday evening, we'll have the opportunity to actually have much more interactively talk with experts on all of these standards. And for those of you who want to attend the reception on Wednesday evening, you will need a little coupon, so please stop by during the interop demo and pick up an invitation so you can come to the reception there on Wednesday evening. And so that is a quick snapshot on what the OASIS activities are all about. So what we'd like to do now is to begin to give you a view of work as being done within the federal government. And so I will start next with Scott Schaup, who is from FEMA in the Enterprise Architecture Office, and he's also the domain steward manager for the NEAM Emergency Management Domain for FEMA, and have him present the information on his program there. Scott.
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for the introduction. So I'm from FEMA's Enterprise Architecture Office, and it's an information technology group, and we are charged with taking FEMA's business and its alignment, looking at the mission, looking at security, and looking at information technology standards, and trying to get all those things put together to connect the dots to provide a much better and more efficient agency. Ira Grossman will be here over the next 2 days. He is the Chief Enterprise Architect, and he's been within the federal government, NOAA, for over 20 years doing EA work, and before that he worked in the Navy. And I do have one of his most famous stories to tell you, and I think it's very applicable to what's going on today. So real quickly, my background, I came up through the missions and through IT, and so OASIS, of course, has been a term that I've been familiar with since I was a nerd writing code in the 90s in a bunch of dead languages, and it's quite empowering to be up here today, and I think that you absolutely play a vital role in what we're trying to do here. I'm a co-manager with Dennis Gusty of the Emergency Management Domain. You would think it would be obvious that FEMA would have the primary mission coordinating with DHS to be the managers of the EM domain. But when we looked at it, we realized a couple things. The first thing is that you have to be working with the practitioners on the ground, and you have to integrate with the people that are actually performing the work to be successful. And we realized that through DHS's Office for Interoperability and Compatibility, they had a more mature program providing the EDXL standards, and they were aligned with significant organizations such as yourself, and they had working groups aligned with organizations like the EIC, which is the Emergency Interoperability Consortium, right? So there was a lot of baseline there for us to leverage. And so basically that's why we've come up with this confederacy, and it gives us our ability to work and to talk to people like you today. The reason I mention my background is that I've been working with data for years, a number of years within FEMA, and I feel like this is a landmark moment to be up here today from where we were even 5 years ago with our data operations. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to change the culture at FEMA. Of course, I haven't flipped any slides yet because I've added all this since I was sitting back in the back, seeing how things have gone. And I will talk about the EM domain being mini-me, try to pull off an Austin Powers joke later. So we're changing the culture at FEMA that will push down and be able to empower individuals like yourself. My best example I use over and over again is when we're all done at the end of the week and we get back to our home location on Friday, how many of you are going to take a Post-it note or a napkin here from the Hilton, write down the hours you worked this week, submit it to your supervisor, and expect to get paid? Is there anybody that's able to do that? There's one gentleman in the back. He must own the company. Other than that, that's an impossibility, of course, because it's ingrained into the business structure that there is a certain way for you to get paid to do your work, right? And everybody getting paid is a pretty important part of why we're here. Conversely, in a lot of organizations, and like FEMA, still to some extent, but we're making a lot of progress like today, if we were going to do data storage, data exchanges, we were going to write a report, it's almost like the Wild West, isn't it? Why are there not standards, processes, and procedures to facilitate something just as similarly? So, of course, coercion is not always the best way to facilitate change. So we're taking a dual approach. There's a lot of incentive in using NEAM to be able to make your jobs easier, to meet your mission more quickly, and over time to save money. We're also taking the other approach, besides that sort of marketing, is we are going to follow the money, and that is a necessity within any large organization. So we are facilitating some changes at FEMA that I think would be important to you. Specifically, we're starting to work NEAM language into contracts, into IT contracts. For those of you that maybe are familiar with some of these things, so FEMA is consolidating. 5 years ago, we probably had 30, 40 different IT development contracts spread across various mission areas, very autonomous, a lot of lack of coordination. So the IT department has created what's called our EDIS program, where we are working to do all enterprise IT development under one umbrella. And we are going to be using NEAM and EDXL to facilitate data exchanges with all external agencies. And I can say that with certainty today because we've already started doing that in a large enterprise program called DAIP, Disaster Assistance Improvement Program. That's where Katrina hit, and the President decided that that disaster did not go as well as it could have. He was right. And as a result, FEMA is charged through executive order to centralize and facilitate the data collection for what's occurred to all disaster survivors, disseminate that to all federal agencies across the government, so that a disaster survivor doesn't have to interact with 16 or 17 different federal agencies to get back on his or her feet again.